Let me ask you something. Have you ever made a decision when you were angry and then had to live with it when you were no longer angry? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever said something because, you wanted someone to hurt the way they hurt you? Have you ever walked away because you wanted someone to chase you? Have you ever ended something because you wanted the other person to realize your value? Have you ever said, I'm done, when what you really meant was, I need you to understand how much you've hurt me? These are not the same thing. They're not. And I think that we need to become brutally honest about that. Because sometimes we call something a decision when it was really an emotional reaction. Sometimes we call it a boundary when it was actually punishment. Sometimes we call it self respect when it was actually pride. Sometimes we call it moving on when we're actually running away. And sometimes we call it closure when what we really wanted was revenge. That's uncomfortable, I know. But let's stay here because this conversation isn't about being positive. No, it's not. I'm not here to tell you that everything happens for a reason. No, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to tell you, to keep going when you don't even know whether you want to do that. I'm not here to tell you to forgive everybody. That's not what I'm here to. I'm certainly not here to tell you to stay in places that are destroying you. No. There are times when you need to leave. There are relationships you need to end. Yes, there are people you need to remove out of your life. There are jobs you just need to resign from, and there are businesses you need to close down. There are doors you need to you need to shut down. Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's a difference between making a decision when you have become clear, and making a decision when you are emotionally overwhelmed and desperately want the feeling to stop. And that's what I am talking about today. Because the feeling will pass. Trust me, it will pass. The consequences may not. You know that moment I'm talking about? I'm sure you do. You've gone through that moment. Something happened, and maybe someone says something to you. Maybe you discover something about someone or something. Maybe someone betrays you. Maybe someone rejects you. And maybe, you get fired from work. Maybe somebody you trusted disappointed you. And maybe the relationship, you've invested years into suddenly breaks down. Maybe you received a phone call. Maybe you received a bad message. Maybe someone didn't call you. Maybe someone chooses someone else instead of you. And maybe the business you spent years building isn't working. Maybe you've looked at your bank account and realized you are nowhere near where you have imagined you would be today. Maybe you're sitting alone at night and suddenly you are thinking, what am I doing with my life? And something happens inside of you. You don't just feel sad, you become decisive. Suddenly, you know exactly what you're going to do. Does that make sense to you? You say to yourself, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm not taking this anymore. I'm quitting. I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm never going to speak to them again. I'm never going to trust anybody again. I am deleting everything. I am blocking everyone. I am moving forward. In fact, I'm starting all over again. I'm going to show them. And for a moment, just for a moment, it feels good. It feels so good at that time because this decision gives you something that the situation took away from you. And what is that? Control. Yes. That's what people don't talk about. Sometimes we don't make decisions because we are wise. We make decisions because they made us feel powerful. They make us feel powerful again. We couldn't control what they did to us, but we could control whether we walk away or not. We couldn't control whether they choose us or not, but we can decide if we want them or we don't want them anymore. You couldn't control whether the business succeeded. But guess what? You can shut it down. Shut it down. You couldn't control whether the relationship survived or not. But guess what? You can end it first. You couldn't control whether they rejected you or not. But you can convince yourself that you never wanted them anymore. And suddenly, just suddenly, you feel better. Not because the problem is solved, because you regain the illusion of control. But guess what? That's dangerous. My friend, here's what I want you to be careful about. Now, pain can tell the truth, but pain can also distort the truth. That's why you can't automatically trust every conclusion you make while you're hurting. You may be hurt, but still be wrong. You may be angry, but still be wrong. You may be disappointed, but still be wrong. You may be absolutely convinced about something or someone, but still be wrong. That's one of the hardest things for an adult to accept. Certainly, certainty does not equate to truth. You can be 100% certain about somebody, but later find out that you're completely wrong. Think about the last time you were furious, angry. You probably weren't thinking, let me consider multiple perspective. No, you were not. You were angry, you were furious. Your mind was building a case. Every detail becomes evidence. That proves it. They've always been like that. I knew it. I shouldn't have trusted them. That's who they really are. They were only pretending. And suddenly, one event becomes a verdict on an entire person. One conversation becomes a verdict on an entire relationship. And one failure becomes a verdict on your entire life. One rejection becomes a verdict on your worth. That's how temporal feelings become permanent beliefs. And guess what? Permanent beliefs create permanent decisions. And sometimes all you just wanted is just for them to notice that you're hurting. That's it. And come on, let's be honest. Sometimes when you say like I'm done, right? When you say something like I'm done, you're just hoping that someone will say to you, Anita, no, no, don't go. Stay. Let's fix this. Let's sort this out. I need you. That's all you want. You want someone to say to you, you matter to me. And guess when they don't say that, that's when the real devastation actually begins. Because now you have to live with the decision you've already announced. And pride won't let you go back. So what do? You tell yourself, I don't care. I don't care. But the truth is, you do care. You care deeply, in fact. But you've already made the announcement. You've already told everyone. You've already blocked them. And you've already packed your things and gone. You've already said the words. And now you're trapped by your own reaction. Not because you can't change your mind, no, but because you are too proud to admit that your emotions got ahead of you. That's another thing we don't talk about enough. Pride can turn a temporary reaction into a permanent reality. There's a particular kind of message people send when they're emotionally flooded. And I know you know it because you've been there. I know you do. That long paragraph, remember? That long paragraph, the one you've written 3 times. You've read it again and again and you edit it. You add another sentence to it. And then you delete it. Then you add it again. And eventually you send it. And that moment when you press send, you feel relief. Now they will know. But then you wait. No response from them. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe an hour. You wait. And suddenly you regret everything. Now you're staring at your phone thinking, oh my God, why did I say all that? Why did I send that? Because you were not trying to communicate. You were trying to transfer your pain to someone else. There's a difference between the two. Now, communication says, you know what? I am hurting. This happened to me, and this is how it affected me. This is what I need. But emotional dumping says, guess what? I am hurting right now, so you need to hurt too. And sometimes we disguise retaliation as honesty. We call it speaking my truth. No, it's not the same thing. No, it's not. Sometimes you were just angry. And it's okay. It's okay to be angry. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed. But don't make your anger sound more sophisticated than it is. Sometimes you're angry and that's it. It's that simple. Just angry. Now let's talk about this. You say, you know, I will show them how successful I'll become someday. I will show them that I will lose that weight. I will show them that I will make money. I will show them that I will do this. I will get that promotion. I will get married. I will build that house. I would build that business. I'll become famous. I'll make them regret what they did to me. And maybe you will. Yes, maybe you will. But here is the problem. If your entire ambition is built around making somebody sound wrong, then they still owe you. But think about that. Just think about it for a moment. If you're building your entire life around someone who hurts you, then you're waking up thinking about them all the time. You're working because of them. You're successful or succeeding because of them. You are posting on your Instagram or social media because of them. You're buying things because you want them to know that you finally made it. You say you've moved on, but how? If they are still living rent free in your head, that's not freedom, my friend. That's not. That's revenge with a better packaging. And eventually you may achieve everything you set out to do or everything that you wanted. And you realize you don't even know what you wanted anymore. Because your entire identity is built on proving something to someone who is not even watching. That's where it gets darker, my friend. Because sometimes the original pain ends, but we don't. We keep it alive. We tell the story over and over and over and over and over again. We keep telling the story. You know, we explain what they did to us. Oh, he hurt me. Oh, she was unfair to me. We explain how nobody understood me. We explain how badly we were treated. And eventually, the pain becomes part of our identity. Now, you're not just someone who was betrayed. Guess what? You are the betrayed one. And now, you're not just someone who experienced rejection. You are the rejected one. And then, you are not someone who went through divorce. You are the woman whose marriage failed. You are not just someone whose business failed, but you are the person who couldn't make it succeed. And now every new experience is filtered through the old wound. Someone didn't call you, but you call you back. Guess what? Oh, you're rejecting me. Someone disagrees with you. Oh, they disrespected me. Someone sets a boundary, and then you say, oh, they're abandoning me. Someone needs space, and you say, they don't care about me. You're no longer responding only to what's happening to you at that time. You're responding to what happened before. And that's how yesterday starts controlling your today. You know, never again will let that happen. Sounds powerful, yes, but sometimes never again is just fear wearing a strong voice. Never again will I trust. Never again will I love like that. Never again will I depend on anyone. Never again will I trust them. Never again will I open up. Never again will I be vulnerable. Never again will I let somebody get close to me. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're also closing the door on experiences that haven't even happened yet. You're punishing future people for what someone from your past did. That's not wisdom. No, that's not wisdom. That's unresolved pain. Now, let me say something very carefully to you. You don't have to become naive again. You don't have to trust everybody. No, you don't. You don't have to ignore red flags when you see one. You don't have to give unlimited access to people into your life. But there is a difference between having discernment and having, a permanent defense. One protects you, but the other one imprisons you. And perhaps you're going to hate me for saying this one. Sometimes you haven't moved on, and that's what it is. You haven't. You've just become busy. Yeah, you get a new relationship, you get a new job, you move to a new city, perhaps you start a new business, perhaps you get a new hairstyle, perhaps you get a tattoo, a new body, you've lost weight, whatever it is, a new social circle. And maybe the big one, you have a new life. But underneath all that, you are still angry, very angry, and you are still hurt. You are still trying to prove something to someone. And because no one sees that wound, you tell yourself you have healed. No, baby girl, you haven't healed. You are just functioning. That's not successful healing. Or rather, that's not necessarily healing. Healing means you can remember what happened without needing to recreate the pain. Healing means you can tell the story without needing everyone to agree that you are the victim. Healing means, you can actually say, they hurt me. Yes, they did. It mattered. Of course, it did matter. It changed me. Perhaps it did. But it does not get to make every decision I make from this point forward. That's the difference. Yes, that's the difference. So now let's talk about work. You've been working for, let's say, many years, and you are exhausted. Your boss doesn't appreciate you at work. Your colleagues are difficult people to handle or manage. You're underpaid. You wake up every morning and think, I can't do this anymore. I can't. And maybe you should leave that job. Maybe you should. But don't confuse I hate how I feel right now with, you know what? This is no longer the right place for me. I need to leave. I need to move on. These are two different conclusions. One requires a career decision, and the other one requires you to rest. Maybe you need a vacation. Maybe you actually need to rest. Maybe you need to have a conversation with your boss or your colleague. Maybe you need a new role in that in that office. Maybe you actually need an entire different company. Maybe you need to leave, resign, quit. But don't resign at 11:30 because your boss embarrassed you at 10 o'clock. That's not courage. That's emotional timing. Entrepreneurs understand this. You know why? Because there are days when you look at the business and think, oh my God, like I'm done. I am tired. No customers, no clients, no sales, no profit. There's so much bills to pay. There's pressure coming from everywhere. People don't understand what you are building. And suddenly you're ready to delete the website, close the account, sell everything, and get a job. Maybe the business does need to close. There's no shame in that. Yes, there's not. But you need to ask yourself, look, is the business actually failing or am I exhausted from carrying it alone? Because sometimes the answer isn't for you to quit. Sometimes the answer is simply, you know what? Just change the business model. Just change the offer they're giving to people, clients. Maybe change your market. Maybe change the strategy you're using in your business. Ch- Change the team that you're working with. Change the timeline you're delivering, you're producing. Or perhaps, just perhaps close it down. But make that decision from analysis, not from humiliation. That's what I'm simply saying. You know, not from one bad month to another, not from one disappointing, launch, not from looking at someone else's Instagram and deciding that you are behind. Because comparison is another temporal feeling that creates permanent decision, and you don't want to do that. Now let's get to relationships, because this is where people become irrational. Because love makes people emotional. So does betrayal. I'm sure you know that. You discover something, let's say you discover something, you feel deceived by your partner, you feel stupid about what they did, and then you think, how could I be so blind? I should have seen this all along. And now you want to destroy everything. Maybe you should leave that relationship. Maybe the relationship is finished. But don't make the decision because you want the other person to feel the pain you're feeling. That's simply what I'm saying. Make that decision because you have decided that you cannot live with that. That's completely different conclusion. Because if you leave just to punish them, guess what? You are still emotionally attached to their reaction. If you leave because, look, you're clear, you don't need them to understand. You don't need them to regret it. You certainly don't need them to beg you. No, you don't need them to chase after you. You just simply know, look, you know what? I'm done. It's over. I need to move on. That's clarity. And guess what? Clarity is quiet, but revenge is very loud. And it is important for you to know. You can make the right decisions for the right reasons. It is so possible for you to do that. You can leave the right relationship because you are angry. You can resign from the right job because you want revenge. You can end the right relationship or friendship because you want them to chase after you. The outcome might eventually be correct, but the process still matters. Because if you train yourself to make decisions through emotional expectation, eventually, guess what will happen? You will have to live with the consequences. You need to learn the difference between I am done because I have thought this through, and guess what? I am done because I can't stand how I feel right now. They may sound familiar, but they're not. They're not the same thing. Here's the question nobody is asking you right now. What happens when you wake up tomorrow? You make all these decisions and wake up, because guess what? The feeling will eventually change. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not next month, maybe even not next year. But emotions move. So imagine that they do move and change. Imagine you wake up and you're no longer furious. You wake up and you're no longer angry. Imagine you're no longer desperate. Imagine that you're no longer lonely. Imagine the embarrassment has faded. Imagine the rejection doesn't sting as much as it did. Imagine, you've slept, you've eaten, you've thought about it. Imagine you have had a conversation with somebody's, objective. Imagine you are now calmer. And then you look at the decision that you made. Do you still want it? If yes, guess what? Then maybe it's a real decision. But if no, my friend, then you've almost allowed a temporal emotional state to determine your life. And that's the test. Now, let me challenge the people who use this principle as an excuse to stay. Because don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings can also be abused. You cannot use it to convince yourself to remain in something that is dangerously destroying you. If someone repeatedly abuses you, that's not a temporary feeling. If someone repeatedly betrays you, that, my friend, is a pattern. If a place of work consistently humiliates you and exploits you, that is not having a bad day. If a relationship repeatedly violates your boundary, that is not a temporary action, but a permanent one. It's a pattern. One incident can be emotional, but a pattern is an evidence. So don't sit in a burning house and say, oh, I don't want to make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling, so I'm going to stay, while the house is burning, and it doesn't matter that I get burnt in the house. Get out of that house while the house is burning. Get out and make a decision and decide what comes next. The point isn't, for you never to leave. That's not what I'm saying. The point is, know why you are living if you must leave. Know why you're living. What if you are the one? No, let's talk about this. What if you are the one that is wrong? That's an uncomfortable question. I know a lot of you will not want to answer that. What if you're the one who needs to change? I know that that's an uncomfortable question, but we spend so much time asking questions, saying things like, oh, or rather asking questions like, who hurts me, who rejected me, who betrayed me, who didn't appreciate me, who tricked me, who did this. But sometimes the more important question is simply this: what did I contribute? Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you were controlling. Maybe you were emotionally unavailable. Maybe you didn't communicate with the people. Just maybe you expected people to read your mind. Maybe you kept choosing people who confirmed or validated your deepest fear. Maybe you sabotaged something good because you were afraid that it will eventually hurt you. Maybe you walked away because intimacy scares you. Just maybe, you destroyed the relationship before they could reject you. Maybe you quit because failing publicly felt worse than knowing what you would become. That's where this conversation becomes personal. Because sometimes the temporal feeling isn't anger. No, it's not. It's actually something called fear. And fear can make intelligent people do incredibly stupid things. Fear doesn't usually say, you know what, I'm a little uncertain. No. Fear says something like this: never, never will that happen again to me. Impossible. I can never do this. Don't do this to me. Don't touch me. I'm going to run and never return. I'm going to leave and I will never come back. I'm going to stop. Just completely stop. You will get hurt, Anita. It's not worth it, so don't even bother trying. Anita, don't trust them again. You will fail, so why bother trying? And because fear sounds protective, we obey it. That's what happened. We just simply obeyed. But fear isn't always trying to protect your future. You need to know that. Sometimes it's trying to protect your comfort. And comfort is expensive, very expensive, because the life that you want may require you to tolerate uncertainty, to risk rejection, to be vulnerable sometimes, to even stay long enough to learn, to fail without quitting, to have difficult conversations with people, to admit that you were wrong, to apologize, just apologize. It might even require you to start all over, and it's okay. Not everything that feels uncomfortable is wrong. You need to know that. Do you know that one of the most expensive sentences a person can say is, I don't care anymore? Because sometimes you actually do care. You're just tired of caring. And there's a difference between I don't care anymore, I'm tired of caring. You don't want to feel disappointed anymore, and I get it. And so you decided not to care. You don't want to get hurt anymore, and so you decide not to love anymore. You don't want to fail anymore, and so what do? You decide not to even try. Why bother trying? You don't want to be rejected anymore, and so you decide not to ask. You don't want to be disappointed again, and so what do? You lower your expectations, and eventually you call that peace. But sometimes it's not peace, my friend. It's not. It's emotional numbness. And numbness can feel peaceful because nothing is touching you, nothing is hurting you, but nothing is touching you because you've built walls around everything. You don't become stronger. You actually become unreachable. So I want you to think about something today. I want you, you know, to think about something specifically. What are you about to destroy? What conversation are you about to leave? What message are you about to send? What relationship are you about to end right now? What job are you about to resign from? What business are you about to close down? What opportunity are you about to reject? What person are you about to permanently remove from your life? What decision are you about to make right now? Ask yourself. If I wasn't angry, would I still do this? If the answer is yes, then keep examining it. But if the answer is no, then do it tonight, right now. Not because you have to stay, but because you need to know whether the decision belongs to you or to the emotion. And here's the part that I want you to take seriously, very seriously. You can actually apologize. There's nothing wrong with it. You can repair a broken relationship. You can rebuild. You can. You can start all over. It's possible. But you cannot recover time when time is lost. There are years that you cannot get back. There are people you can't get back. There are opportunities you don't get back. There are versions of yourself you don't get back, my friend. And sometimes the tragedy isn't that you made the wrong decision. No, it is that you made a decision too quickly and spent years trying to justify it. That's exhausting. Because once we make a decision publicly, our ego wants to defend it, even when we know that we are wrong. We would rather suffer than admit that we are wrong, or admit that, you know what, I acted quickly and foolishly. Why? Because admitting you are wrong feels humiliating, and you don't want to humiliate yourself. But living with the consequences for 10 years is not humility, my friend. It is pride. It is pride. If you don't know, now you know. So listen to me. You are allowed to change your mind. Yes, you are. You are allowed to say, you know what? I thought about it and now I realize I'm wrong. You're allowed to say, I overreacted. You're allowed to say, I need to rethink this. You are allowed to apologize. You're allowed to say, I'm sorry. You are allowed to reopen a conversation. You are allowed to admit that you were hurt and handled it badly. You're allowed to say, you know what, I thought I wanted this, but I just realized that I don't. And you are allowed also to say, I thought I wanted to stay, but now I know actually need to leave. Changing your mind isn't always weakness. It is actually not. Sometimes it's evidence that you have new information about certain things or certain people, and that the emotional fog has lifted, or that you are finally told yourself the truth. Ultimately, this isn't really about decisions. No, it's about who you become when life hurts you. Because pain will come. You can't avoid it. It's life. The question isn't whether you will get hurt, because you will. Oh, you definitely will get hurt. The question is, what does pain get to turn me into? Does betrayal turn me into someone who betrays others? Does rejection turn me into someone who rejects others? Does abandonment turn me into someone who abandons others? Does humiliation turn me into someone who humiliates others? Does disappointment turn me into someone who disappoints others? Or does failure turn me into someone who never tries again? Or can I actually say, you know what? This happened to me. This happened to me. It affected me. Yes, it did. Perhaps it even changed me, but I will not let this moment rewrite my life or write the rest of my life. This is not motivational. This is responsibility, because eventually you have to stop blaming the person who hurts you for every decision that you make afterward. They may have caused the pain, but at some point, you know what? You have to make decisions that, you're not going to live with this anymore. So let me leave you this. Maybe you're listening to this because something happened today. Yeah, maybe you are angry, maybe you're disappointed, maybe you're devastated, maybe you were rejected, maybe you're sitting somewhere right now wondering what you need to do next. Maybe you've already made a decision actually. Maybe you are about to make that decision, and perhaps nobody knows. You haven't even told anybody about what you're going to do. You've been carrying it all by yourself quietly. I'm not going to tell you that what decision to make. It's not my place. That is not my place to tell you what to do or what not to do. But I'm going to ask you to do something harder. And what is that? Tell yourself the truth. And are you living because you're hurting? Are you living because you are right? Are you quitting because the chapter is genuinely over, or because you are exhausted? Are you ending the relationship because it is unhealthy for you, or because you want them to feel what you are feeling, the pain you are feeling? Are you cutting them off because you need a boundary right now, or because you want to punish them? Are you saying I don't care because you found peace, or because caring becomes so painful? Are you saying never again because you've gained wisdom, or because you are afraid to care? Are you starting over because you have a new vision, or because you're running away from what happened? Be honest. Just ask yourself this question and be honest. Not with me. I'm not asking you to be honest with me. I'm asking you to be honest with yourself when you ask yourself this question, because you can lie to everyone else, but you can not lie to yourself. You can make it even sound logical. You can convince your friends about it. You can convince your family about it. You can post the quotes. You can make the announcement. You can put a smile on your face as if everything is okay. But when you are alone, you know deep down in your heart, whether you are acting from clarity or a place of pain. You know whether you are living because you are hurt or otherwise. You know whether you're quitting because it's time or because you're simply tired. Don't lie to yourself. And if truly you don't know, then perhaps you don't need a decision tonight. Yeah, perhaps all you need is just time, rest. Because there's nothing courageous about making a permanent decision simply because you cannot tolerate a temporal feeling. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is just sit in your uncertainty. Let the anger burn out. Let the tears come. It's allowed. Let it come. Let the disappointment settle. Let the adrenaline leave your body. Just sleep, rest, take a vacation, sleep. Maybe think, maybe even meditate. Talk to someone who isn't emotionally invested in the outcome. Look at the facts. Look at the pattern. Look at your own behavior. Very important. After you've done all this, then when the noise is gone, make a decision. Decide what you want to do. And if you still want to leave, leave. If you still want to quit, quit. If you still want to end that relationship, end it. If you still want to close that business, then close it. If you still want to quit the job, then do. If you still believe that the door needs to close, then close it. Go ahead and do it. But this time, don't do it because you're trying to escape a feeling. Do it because you have faced the truth. Because there is a difference between running away from pain and walking away from what no longer belongs in your life. They're two different things. There's a difference between revenge and release. There's a difference between pride and self-respect for yourself. There's a difference between fear and discernment. They're two different things. They're not the same thing. So let us get it twisted. And there's a difference between saying, you know what, I'm done because I'm hurting, and saying, I'm done because I've thought about this and I've faced the truth. And I know that this is a decision I can live with. There is a difference between all that. So before you make that decision, wait, think. I'm not asking you to wait forever, just long enough to find out whether it's actually the right decision you're actually making, or because you're just feeling a change. Because guess what? Circumstances change, people change, situations change. Even you can change. And the decision you make in the worst moment of your life would not automatically become the sentence or the decision that saves you. Don't let anyone rewrite your story. Don't let one person rewrite your entire story. Don't let one failure define your capacity. Don't let one betrayal define your ability to trust people. Don't let one rejection define your worth, and don't let one temporal feeling becomes a permanent author of your life. So, my friend, think, then decide. And whichever you decide, make sure that you can live with the person who made that decision. Because that person is you, nobody else. So ensure that any decision you've made after thinking about it, you can live with that person. I hope this helps you.